How the time flies. This last September saw the 10th anniversary of what many consider, myself included, to be one of the greatest video games of all time, Undertale. Developed by Toby Fox following a successful Kickstarter for only $51,000, Undertale has since grown to become a worldwide phenomenon that completely transformed the indie gaming landscape. Anyone who's played the game can tell you why. From the stellar character writing and unforgettable music, to the genius design of a game that tests the limitations of the gaming art form, Undertale is a truly remarkable, almost perfect video game experience. Almost perfect, because after several playthroughs throughout the years and a decade now of sitting on it, there is still one major issue I have about the work of Undertale. Is it an issue that ruins the game? Not at all. It is still an admirable tale, and one that I will continue to look back fondly on. And frankly, other people who have tried to tell similar stories fall into the same trap. Even so, while there is much to celebrate with Undertale, the thing I find myself wanting to talk about the most regarding the video game is this. This is Mercenary Publishing, and we're happy to present to you our thoughts on Undertale. Killing is unnecessary. Negotiate out of danger using the unique battle system. Whether you visit the original Kickstarter or the product listing for Undertale, this is one of the first lines presented to you. In fact, it is one of the first ideas presented in the game by Toriel, the motherly tutorial character who presents the player with the game's mechanics. In the average role-playing video game, the gameplay loop is as follows. The main character sets out on a quest, usually to save the world. The player encounters monsters along the way, which they fight and slay for resources and experience points. Resources can be traded for better equipment. Experience points are used to level up stats. With these upgrades, the players can fight tougher and tougher monsters. Eventually, the final boss is slain, the world is saved, and the player has completed the quintessential RPG. Undertale immediately sets itself apart from its peers in the genre by subverting this gameplay loop. Yes, you can play it like a traditional RPG, slaying monsters that attack you as you go about your journey. But you can also talk to, interact with, and negotiate with nearly every monster you encounter in the game. Whereas other RPGs offer violence as the only solution, there are non-violent means by which you can complete the game of Undertale. In fact, to unlock what many consider to be the best and happiest ending of the game, you have to almost completely abstain from violence in what is called the true pacifist route. To give the player a non-violent method to resolve most fights in the game is not only a brilliant twist on the RPG formula, but also a thoughtful examination of the video game genre as a whole. There have been many critics of video games who have claimed that they make people who play them more violent. Whenever a mass shooting happens, games like Call of Duty are among the first to get blamed. Given how many people actually play games without turning into violent sociopaths, however, there's no reason to believe that a video game is going to make a person more violent any more than the average movie, TV show, or other work of art. However, there is something disturbing about just how readily people consume violent media with little to no remorse or even consideration for their actions, especially given how quickly someone can rack up a body count in your average video game. In your average Call of Duty match, which lasts between 5 to 15 minutes, a typical player will kill between 10 to 30 enemy combatants. In The Last of Us Part 2, a game focused around the horror that is the cycle of violence, the average player kills around 180 to 300 enemy combatants to complete the game. Go for Naughty Dog's more lighthearted series, the Uncharted games, and a typical playthrough involves killing between 600 to 800 enemies to complete the story. Undertale, then, is a breath of fresh air in many regards, but especially in regards to its pacifistic approach. Sure, you might be fighting monsters instead of human enemies, but you do not have to undergo a violent rampage just to complete the story. Undertale stands out as one of the few RPGs that can be completed almost completely non-violently. But once again, it is important to pay attention to the word almost, because no matter how kind or merciful you are, the player must eventually face the obstacles that are Asgore and Flowey. One of the brilliant things about Undertale that often goes ignored is the motivation Toby Fox came up with for why the monsters of the underground want to kill your player character. The premise of the game's story is that the monsters of the world lost a war to humanity and were driven into the caves of Mount Ebott. There, the monsters would remain until the souls of 7 humans who made the mistake of entering the monster's domain were obtained. Once the 7 souls were combined together, the monsters would be able to destroy the barrier that kept them trapped. By the time your character Frisk falls down into Mount Ebott, the monsters have already acquired 6 human souls. Therefore, the monsters will finally gain freedom and see the light of day if they can kill just one more person. You. In other games, monsters typically try to kill the player character because they are either mindless beasts or selfish, evil, and often irredeemable villains. Things aren't so clean-cut in Undertale. An entire civilization, of which many members had nothing to do with the war fought between monsters and humans, can go free if but one stupid human dies. A human who went wandering where they weren't supposed, perhaps for even suicidal reasons. A human who also can't leave, by the way, unless they themselves are willing to kill a boss monster and steal their soul. Either way, this story doesn't end unless someone dies, setting up the climactic confrontation with the Mountain King, Asgore. As Frisk, the player encounters many monsters along the way, convincing one after another to stand down. These monsters are willing to show mercy and become friends with Frisk for many reasons, but there is an underlying sense that everyone is willing to do it because they're all willing to pass the buck. On the initial playthrough, all of the monsters the player befriends will show kindness and support, but only to a certain point. No one stops the player or rushes ahead to stop their confrontation with the Mountain King. On the first playthrough, no one is willing to stop Asgore from doing what needs to be done to let monsters go free, and that leads to a fight that cannot be ended without violence. In one of the coolest and most jaw-dropping moments in the game, the fight with Asgore begins a literally game-changing twist. The Mountain King and savior of monster kind, in an act that proves both his convictions and his strength as a boss monster, shatters the player's mercy button. You cannot spare him normally, like any other fight, and Asgore will not stop until you have been slain and have your soul taken. This is a fight to the death, or at least it would be if this were a perfect game, but this is where things start to go off the rails. After a trying and difficult fight, one that requires the player to directly attack Asgore about a dozen times, the Mountain King at last drops to a knee. However, he isn't dead. He is on death's door, but his wounds are not fatal. It would take only one more attack to finish him off, but despite having your mercy button destroyed by Asgore at the start of the fight, the player is once again given a choice. Kill, or use the reforged mercy button to spare the Mountain King. A choice is given when there shouldn't be one. When I first played Undertale many years ago, I was happy that this choice existed. I wanted to complete Undertale without killing any monster, and after learning King Asgore's story, I was more than happy to show him mercy. In fact, as a disciple of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, there was something even Christian about the fact that I could show everyone, even Asgore, mercy. But now, after a decade to think about this pivotal moment and what this choice represents, this is where Undertale fails. This is the blemish that has grown to haunt me more and more with each passing year. Why? Why does it bother me so much? Well, it's not for the reason you might be thinking. It's not the fact that you can spare Asgore that bugs me so much as the way you come to spare him. It's the fact that Toby Fox tried to have his cake and eat it too that bothers me so much. No, the mistake Toby Fox made came not at the end of the fight with Asgore, but at the start. But to explain what that mistake was and why this sort of half-hearted violence irritates me in every story I see it in, we will need to take a very slight detour. Have you ever heard of a show called Andor? Andor, the Star Wars prequel to the excellent Rogue One, has one of the best openings to any TV show I have ever seen. Sure, it's a bit of a slow start, but once you consider it in the context of the rest of the series, including the greater Star Wars universe, you can really appreciate why the show opened the way it did. Cassian Andor is roaming bars and brothels, trying to track down a lead on his missing sister. Unfortunately for him, he is accosted by a couple of drunk beat cops as he's making his way through the night. Things escalate, and Andor tries to non-lethally take down the cops arresting him, headbutting one and stealing the blaster of another. Cassian Andor is not a cold-blooded killer yet. At least, he wasn't when the night began. But that cop he headbutted? Yeah, he died. By getting knocked away and slamming against the wall, the first cop died before Cassian even had the chance to grab the blaster from the second one. With no other choice, Cassian is then forced to execute the second cop lest he pursue him, kickstarting his personal journey that would lead our reluctant hero to becoming an instrumental part of the rebellion that would take down the evil empire. Why do I love this scene so much? Because it demonstrates the danger of using any sort of violence against another living being. Fiction is wonderful for many reasons, but one facet of it that I truly despise is this notion that heroes can pull their punches. Superhero stories are particularly guilty of this, but even outside of it, there are many stories where the hero can use violent means to defeat foes non-lethally. Punch the right way, use the flat edge of the sword, just shoot someone in the shoulder, and many other similarly stupid notions regarding heroic violence have crept into countless stories across the years. The truth of violence, however, is that any sort of violent act can, and more often than not will, lead to permanent and fatal consequences. Push someone the wrong way and they'll die. A crushed ribcage can kill just as easily as a few severed fingers. Miss by a few inches, shoot with the wrong gun, or apply the wrong treatment, and that non-lethal shoulder wound is going to prove unexpectedly deadly as life fades, and fades fast. Now, if we lived in a perfect logical world, one might be tempted to make the argument that a small show of force is all it would take to get those who disagree with accepted societal norms to fall in line. Beat the ne'er-do-well with a couple of stripes and they'll stop acting out. In such a world, prisons and capital punishment wouldn't be necessary. But that is not how things work. Despite what Dragon Ball, Fire Emblem, and many stories of the same vein might tell you, beating the crap out of someone or defeating them in battle is not enough to get them to change their ideology. Even if hurting someone was all it took to get someone to do what you want, the person you just maimed probably won't live long enough to enjoy taking your view on life. And here's the real kicker. Toby Fox kind of acknowledges all of this, because whether you kill or spare Asgore doesn't really matter. Hiding in the shadows, waiting to take advantage of the duel between Frisk and the Mountain King, is the character that directly addresses the issue of pacifism. It is the one monster that you really shouldn't be able to reason with. After all, one of the first lessons he teaches you in this game is the impetus of his entire ideology. In this world, it's kill or be killed. So let's talk about Flowey, and why he too contributes to the game's overall shortcomings regarding the nature of pacifism. So this idea that you can fight someone without killing them is rather stupid in itself. Undertale is a silly game to be sure, but it was an extraordinarily smart one up until this moment you can spare Asgore. The idea that you can attack Asgore a dozen times and leave him on the edge of death is rather eye-rolling, and especially so given how you can't defeat any other monster and spare them in the same way. But that in itself would be forgivable if I didn't find the message the fight was communicating to be so hypocritical and distasteful. You see, the wonder of Undertale is the fact that you can go through the game and befriend those who are trying to kill you. To do this, you engage in conversations or perform acts that are individualized to every monster you encounter. How you get a monster to stand down and stop fighting you is unique to every type of enemy who tries to attack you. This communicates the moral message that most disagreements in life can be better resolved by treating others with respect on an individual basis, that most conflicts can be resolved without resorting to violence. However, the idea that all disagreements can be solved through diplomacy and civility is not a universal truth. Most conflicts can be resolved without violence, but not all of them. There are, in fact, fundamental ideological beliefs and philosophies that must not only be rejected, but violently so. This is why we have law enforcement and a militarized government, because if we did not have a violent solution to reprehensible behaviors, then we as a civilization would not survive. The powers that be must have the means of rejecting what they dub criminal acts to prevent and punish further crime. This includes crimes on the small scale, such as theft and public indecency, to truly abominable behavior, such as sexual abuse or unauthorized acts of violence we call murder. In this world, it's kill or be killed. When Undertale begins, the first monster you encounter isn't actually Toriel, but Flowey the Flower, a seemingly friendly and cute little flower that hardly deserves to be called a monster. No one can anticipate the evil lurking in what Toriel recognizes as a miserable little creature. Well, he is truly deserving to be called as such, because the climax of the player's first pacifist run is a fight with Flowey after he steals both Asgore's soul and the souls of the 6 other humans who died before you. In this world, it's kill or be killed. Well, Flowey the Flower is no mere flower. The monster reveals the terrible beast inside as he transforms into the most terrifying and disgusting abomination encountered in the game, known as Omega Flowey, setting off a fight that tests the limits of the player's abilities. What happens if you die in this fight? Flowey welcomes it. He relishes in your suffering and exploits your ability to reload the game, because it means he can savor this torture session as he kills you over and over and over and over again. In this world, it's kill or be killed. But this wouldn't be a good story if this tale ended here, and Flowey is ultimately defeated with the aid of the human souls as they rise up and rebel against this terrifying monster. Through the power of determination, Flowey is defeated and stripped of his powers, and once again you, the player, are given a choice. Spare the irredeemable monster that has given you so much grief, or strike him down so he might never hurt another soul, human or monster, again. In this world, it's kill or be killed. This choice is given more weight than it was with Asgore. Selecting the spare option doesn't end the conversation. Flowey questions your choice, your willingness to show him, a true monster, mercy. Flowey even goes so far as to tell you that he has learned nothing, that he hasn't changed at all, that he will simply continue to be the monster that troubles the underground until he gets what he wants. If the choice to spare Asgore seemed off-putting, Flowey really tests the limits of the player's mercy in order to complete their first playthrough. In this world, it's kill or be killed. But, like with Asgore, the choice doesn't actually matter. Whether you let Flowey go or spare him, he's powerful enough to return to life if you cut him down. Following Undertale's ending sequence, in which the player can speak with those they've spared along the way, Flowey returns and tempts the player. Unhappy with how things turned out? Do you wish for a happier ending? Then ignore the fact that Flowey just tried to kill you and do what he says. Turn back the clock, play through the game one more time, and you might just get the happy ending you truly desire. In this world, it's kill or be killed. Things do change this time. Remember how I said that none of the monsters dared to try and stop Asgore during the first playthrough? Well, they rise to the occasion for this second playthrough. This time, all of the friends you've made throughout your journey come to assist Frisk, to vouch their case and do what they can to try and stop Asgore from killing you. Notably, Toriel does resort to violence to stop Asgore from attacking you, but your hands are clean this time. This time, you just might be able to enjoy your happy ending without staining your hands with the sin of violence. In this world, it's kill or be killed. But alas, you didn't really think that Flowey helped you out of the kindness of his heart, did you? No. The Underground's wretched devil pops out once again, and this time to claim an even better prize. As it turns out, if you were to combine the soul of every monster in the Underground, you would have the strength to equal one human soul. With every monster having come to stop their king in hopes of saving you, you have instead provided Flowey what he needs to undergo an even more powerful transformation than the one he underwent the first time you fought him. If Omega Flowey wasn't enough, then perhaps what is needed to defeat you is something even greater. What does the power of 7 souls give? The power of a god. In this world, it's kill or be killed. Azrael Dreamer, the tragic prince of all monster kind, given new life in the form of Flowey the Flower, and at last fully revived with the gathering of 7 souls. Now proclaiming himself the god of hyperdeath, it is one last fight to decide the fate of humanity and monsters alike. However, unlike all other fights, this is a fight that you cannot hope to win through violence. No. To defeat Azrael, you must reach out to the souls of all those you have befriended along the way. Through their compassion, through their kindness, and through their love, you convince Azrael to remember who he was and work with him to shatter the barrier once and for all. Though he must relinquish his power, Azrael at last grants you and all the friends you've made along the way what you truly desire: a truly happy ending. In this world, it's kill or be killed. It is a wonderful ending. It is everything the player could want. In a world where nice guys finish last, in a world that Azrael himself admits is full of Floweys, a world of monsters like the monster he once was, it is wonderful that virtue does indeed obtain the last and deserved reward. While it is a shame that Azrael cannot be saved, he is redeemed in his own way. This is how the story ends, and what a powerful ending it makes. Right? In this world, it's kill or be killed. So just like the rest of the game preceding it, the ending of Undertale is nearly perfect. I, like many players, even teared up over how wonderful and beautiful this grand finale is. The final battle, the redemption of Azrael, and granting freedom to monster kind ties an eloquent and dashing bow on this remarkable production. Toby Fox did an extraordinary job with this game, and Undertale continues to impress fans new and old even a decade on. If any game is deserving of being called a timeless classic, it is absolutely Undertale. But you know what I'm about to say. Despite how wonderful the rest of the picture is, there is still just one piece that keeps it from being perfect. You want to know what the real problem with Undertale is? The thing that keeps it from becoming one of the greatest pieces of fiction ever made? There are no monsters in Undertale. There are no monsters but you, and only if you commit a genocide route. In this world, it's kill or be killed. Toriel, Papyrus, Undine, Metaton, Alphys, Sans, Asgore, Azrael. These are but a few of the monsters you meet in the underground, along with many others whom take a wide variety of forms that are decidedly non-human. But therein lies the rub, the thing that didn't bother me my first playthrough, but has become more and more apparent over the last decade as I've engaged with many other works of fiction. What is a monster? A monster is not a beast with sharp claws, but an alcoholic father who rages against his family and beats them when he's in a bad mood. A monster is not a ghost who will scare you in the dead of the night, but a kidnapper who stalks you when you make a wrong turn at the wrong hour. Lizard men do not exist, except for the heartless monsters who turn their nose and refuse to help those less fortunate than them. It's not killer robots or one-eyed fish women you have to worry about, but extremists, psychopaths, rapists, and all manner of wicked men and women who make Flowey the Flower look like a saint by comparison. In this world, it's kill or be killed. There are no monsters here, not in any meaningful way. Toby Fox even confirmed as much during his 10th anniversary livestream of the game. As he talked about his inspirations for each of the characters, he kept comparing his so-called monsters to humans. Sure, they don't look human, but they act like humans, talk like humans, dress like humans, and are effectively human in every meaningful way but body shape. If it looks like a duck, and walks like a duck, and talks like a duck, then odds are that it's probably just a duck, no matter what you or those around you might try to call it. Which is a problem, because if there are no true monsters in this tale, then Undertale's story of mercy is, and I never thought I would say this given how much I loved this game, an underwhelming one. In this world, it's kill or be killed. Once upon a time, there lived a member of the clergy in France, known as the Bishop Myriel. This was a godly man, as proven by a certain man who came to see him, known as Jean Valjean. A visitor who came late in the night, the bishop nevertheless accommodates Valjean and treats him very well, even feeding him and offering him a place to sleep despite expecting nothing in return. How does Jean Valjean respond to this? In this world, it's kill or be killed. Jean Valjean steals much of the bishop's silver and takes off, as is the habit of all thieves who call the night their home. However, the police take notice of this vagabond with wealth, and so arrest the man and bring him to the bishop to face justice. But, instead of justice, what is he given upon being reunited with the bishop? Mercy. True mercy. The bishop not only tells the police that the silver was a gift, but reprimands Valjean for leaving the most important pieces behind, a set of silver candlesticks that would provide the guiding light to Jean Valjean for the remainder of his days. By these candles, Jean Valjean's soul is saved. By these candles, Jean Valjean finds the hope to begin his tale anew. By these precious candles, Jean Valjean rejects the world envisioned by Flowey. A world where it is an eye for an eye. A world where one's heart must become stone. A world, as Flowey says, it's kill or be killed. What separates good art from great art, and even the best of art? It is a matter of morality, even the soul. It is the stories that test our convictions and our beliefs, that challenge us to become even more than what we are, that truly stand the test of time. Undertale is one of the most near-perfect games I have ever played, making for an unforgettable journey that has changed the lives of thousands, if not millions of people around the world. 10 years on, it is still remembered as one of the greatest experiences in gaming. But will that be true 20 years from now? 50 years from now? 100? 300 years from now, making it a work as memorable and beloved as a true masterpiece like Les Miserables? Perhaps it will, but even if it does, this one missing piece will remain. Undertale's greatest failing is that there are truly no monsters to fight, and ultimately, to forgive. Every monster has a good reason for doing what they do. Every enemy, even Asgore and Asriel, are easy to emphasize with because of the pain they suffered and tragedies that they've endured. While that makes for more likable characters, it also means that it is easy for anyone playing this game to show them mercy. And where is the value in that? And if your mercy is so easy and cheap to give, how much is your mercy worth? How worthwhile is Undertale's story of mercy as a result? There's no such thing as a perfect piece of art. As good as it is, why would Undertale be the first? Here's the thing about Undertale. Contrary to the hopeful naivety that filled our hearts a decade ago, the world needs the message of Undertale now more than ever. Civility burns on the roaring flames of violent rhetoric that is making monsters of us all. Social media is an increasingly miserable cesspool where making friends grows increasingly harder by the day. As amazing as a work of fiction Undertale is, with a very clear message that even children can understand, the fan community surrounding Undertale is known for its toxicity and gatekeeping. Few people hate Undertale because they find the work itself to be underwhelming, but many people hate Toby Fox's masterpiece because of his fans, because of the spite shown to them by the hypocrites who love the game but reject its message. Leaving me in a bit of a conundrum. On the one hand, I do think that Undertale takes the easy way out when it comes to its overall message of kindness and mercy, of pacifism and friendship. Toby Fox tried to have his cake and eat it too, and the end result is muddied as a result. Yet, in a world that grows increasingly dark, I cannot help but wonder if it is better for the community that the game turned out the way it did. Maybe it is better that you can complete Undertale without killing anyone, as impossible as that is in this dark world of ours. If nothing else, Undertale represents the hopes and dreams of many who desire a better future. Will we escape the dark we find ourselves in? Who can say? But if you're a true fan of Undertale like me, then it is my prayer that we can work together to make the world a better place for all of us, no matter if we're humans or monsters.
And thank you so much for watching. Undertale really is an important game to me, so I hope you enjoyed hearing some of my thoughts about it. For those of you who are coming from my Death Stranding 2 video, you'll also notice I decided to narrate this video instead of hiring someone else to do it for me. I don't really like to hear the sound of my own voice, but I do think it adds a more personal touch to my content, and will probably continue to narrate most of my own videos going forward. Apart from that, the giveaways continue on the channel. And to make things easier to track and to keep it more professional, you'll see that I'm using Gleam.io to keep track of the giveaway entries. So if you ever want to check how many entries you have for the monthly giveaway, all you have to do is click on the link in the pinned comment. Otherwise, support has been so great for the channel that I'll be posting 2 videos a month, if not more. As such, I hope you'll continue to provide your feedback about what you like and what you think I can do to improve with the channel. I'd also love to hear what your favorite and least favorite things are about Undertale, so please share your thoughts in the comments below. And with that all said, thanks again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next video.